Hello everyone! In today's class, we're going to look at the different values reflected in Chinese and Greek mythology and how they have come to be formed. The important point that usually draws our attention is the images and status of gods in myths. And it is interesting to find that there is a sharp contrast between the images of gods and supernatural beings in Chinese and Greek mythology, and how people from the two cultures respond to the heavenly ones they worship respectively. In most cases, Chinese gods in its mythology are presented as immortal sages. As the deities are supposed to be perfect in every way, it is impossible for them to make mistakes. In another word, they're immune to any kinds of human weaknesses, and they're good at introspection, which makes them perfect moral models for the humans. The deities are also known for their faithful commitment, always ready to sacrifice for the well-being of the clan system. In general, the Chinese deities are upheld in an extremely lofty position, which humans look up to but are never able to reach. Let's look at the typically absolutely lofty gods in Chinese myth. They are Nuwa, Huangdi, and the three emperors of Yao, Shun, Yu. They are the immortal and morally perfect sages. They are so righteous and solemn that they never play tricks on mankind like the Greek gods often do. Instead, they love the earthly humans so much that they are willing to do everything for their well-being, even at the expense of their own divine lives. And for their private life, there's nothing to be criticized. They're always cautious, rigorous, and very strict in cultivating their own virtue and morality. So, this godly self-sacrifice has always been advocated and praised highly by the humans, which have helped to mold the Chinese national spirit of collectivism, devotion to the nation, and sacrifice the ego for the greater collective self, which we call in Chinese 牺牲小我，成全大我. Being very heroic and philanthropic, however, these immortal sages do not necessarily enjoy an exclusive commitment from the humans. In the god-human relationship, Chinese myth endorse certain amount of initiative to the mortals, which to some degree is very pragmatic. This ruling and ruled relationship between the person and the god he worships might break up if he finds his request unanswered, and immediately he might turn to other deities to worship and put forward his request. Furthermore, if one decides that he gains a thorough insight into myths and religion to its nihilism, he might choose to be an atheist and does not worship any gods or deities at all. There is an influential amount of eclecticism in Chinese mythological practices. That is, the adaptation of faith in practical situations instead of seeking ultimate truth in mythological deities. This flexibility in God-human relationship on the one hand gives Chinese huge amounts of initiative in God-worship bond, and on the other hand, leads to its lack of persistence and spirit of exploration. They tend not to be faithful to a certain ultimate truth or doctrine, but pursue a theory of moderation, that is, to be flexible with everything, a kind of eclecticism. This explains why Chinese people worship the local religious gods such as the god of wealth, 财神爷, and the kitchen god, 灶王爷, at home, and also bow to the Buddha in the Buddhist temple. They pray to Avalokitesvara, 千手观音, for bringing the family a child, while they kowtow well before the statue of Confucius to solicit a promotion in career. And in general, they agree that the Jade Emperor, 玉皇大帝, from Taoist mythology, is the supreme ruler of the heaven, the earth, and the afterworld. When we turn to the Greek mythology, we're surprised to find that the heavenly gods are just as imperfect as the earthly mortals. The gods in Greek mythology are so human-like that they have all the weaknesses in human personality, and they are far from being flawless, but rather constantly making mistakes in one way or another. The satisfaction of privately sensual desires by despicable means is everywhere to be seen in Greek myths. For instance, Zeus, the protector and ruler of mankind, is notorious for his promiscuousness, and his wife Hera, the queen of heaven, for being jealous all the time. Together with Poseidon, the god of the sea, who is known for his waywardness, they are obviously the personalized gods. This personification of Greek gods throws light on the prominent differences between the Western culture and the Chinese one. It stresses individuality and gives priority to individuals rather than the group. Equality among individuals is emphasized as well as freedom. They're good at critical thinking and firmly hold that humans are born evil. After all, what can you expect from humans since the gods they worship are far from being perfect themselves? Thus, we have this conclusive remark from Ludwig Feuerbach, the German philosopher, that God did not make man in his image. On the contrary, man made God in his image. There are stories in Greek mythology which are unimaginable to appear in Chinese mythology. Say, the story of Trojan War. The war was waged against the city of Troy by Achaeans for taking back Menelaus' wife, the beautiful Helen. Being the king of Sparta, Menelaus and Paris, the prince of Troy, had put their kingdom and people in war and all the sufferings for a beautiful woman, which cannot be morally accepted in Chinese culture. As a matter of fact, this Greek tale does often remind the Chinese of a counterpart in their Chinese myth, Su Daji, who features as a beautiful but malevolent fox spirit, who seduces the king Zhao of Shan and eventually causes the downfall of the Shan dynasty. Su Daji, the beautiful fox spirit, is one of the major antagonists in Chinese myth, and is often blamed for bringing misfortune and disaster to the country and people. Another infamous story is about Pandora's box. The box came out of Zeus' revenge of human beings after they received the fire from Prometheus. With the accidental opening of the box, sickness, death, jealousy, and many other unspecified evils were released to the world. That is something the deities in Chinese myth would never do. As a matter of fact, If any gods would appear with such misdeeds in Chinese myths, they would have been expelled from the order or eventually reappear as the devils or evil spirits, instead of remaining to be the ruler of the heavenly world as Zeus. Time to review how much we have learned today. Questions. 1. How do you summarize the image of gods in Chinese mythology? Well, in most cases, the main gods and deities are immortal sages. They don't have any human weaknesses. They are role models and always ready to make sacrifice for the well-being of the humans. In a word, they are perfect immortals. While for the gods in Greek mythologies, they are more like the flawed humans. They make mistakes from time to time, and they suffer from their emotional weaknesses, as well as leave humans in pains and sufferings because of them. 2. How do humans treat the mythological figures, namely the gods, in each of the two cultures? Chinese show great respect and reverence towards the heroic figures in their myths. However, polytheistic features in their myths lead to a very pragmatic worship of gods from various systems. Greeks endure their flawed gods, and are fine with the imperfect and worldly errors their gods have made, even though some of their misdeeds have brought them disasters.